Hello, this is psychologist Yulia Latunenko with you, and today I want to talk to you about abandonment trauma in the context of a personality disorder known as borderline. If this is your first time visiting my channel, please subscribe and give this video a like if you find this material useful. And your comments are very helpful for promoting my channel on YouTube. So, borderline personality disorder, many psychologists, clinical psychologists, psychiatrists and researchers believe that this is such a destructive disorder that it can even lead to suicide. And a hallmark of borderline personality disorder is that people tend to harm themselves, specifically to harm their own bodies. Many of these patients scratch their skin, hit themselves, or pull out their own hair. They may intentionally inflict burns on themselves and cause various other bodily injuries. Psychiatrists believe that the hallmark of borderline disorder is a tendency towards self-harm, including injuries up to and including suicide. However, many authors who study borderline personality disorder disagree with this statement. And there is already plenty of evidence that a person with borderline personality disorder may never inflict any pain on themselves throughout their life. Yet, they can still have a diagnosis of borderline disorder. In other words, borderline personality disorder is not always accompanied by self-harm. But psychologists and psychiatrists consider the main hallmark of this disorder to be the fear of abandonment. There is such a person is so afraid of being abandoned, so afraid of loneliness, that they will do everything possible to avoid being left and to avoid facing that abyss, that black hole they fall into when experiencing the fear of being alone. Such a person conveys approximately the following message to those around them. Don't leave me, because I won't survive on my own without close relationship. What is characteristic of people with borderline disorder is a tendency toward merging, toward symbiosis, toward relationships, where it's impossible to distinguish where I end and you begin. Such a person believes their needs can directly substitute the needs of those around them with their own, because they do not distinguish another person's needs from their own needs, their own feelings from the feelings of another person. And such a person, because they desire to be merged, to be in symbiosis, may resort to violent behaviors such as control and jealousy. Such a person may cling to their partner or to their child. Such a person may even absorb, as if devour, anyone who ends up in their close circle. People with borderline personality disorder often display a persecutory type of behavior. They break boundaries. They may destroy their close environment, even when they are asked not to cross boundaries. They intrude like tanks, like heavy artillery into someone else's space, and feel no guilt about it. They believe that they are doing everything right. And all of this is a consequence of their intense fear of being alone, of being separated, isolated, or lonely. Essentially, a person with borderline personality disorder is like a small child in an adult's body, projecting maternal functions onto those around them. She wants someone close to her, a partner, or even her children, to play the role of a good mother for her. They may even directly demand to be cared for, looked after, and have everything done for them as they wish, expecting those around them, if it's their own child, to meet their expectation. When faced with the threat of being abandoned, a person with BPD may be the one to leave first. They sense that they are about to be abandoned, so they get ahead of their loved one and leave first. After that, they fall into depression, grief, and start blaming the very person they left, holding them responsible for everything that happened. There's something else I wanted to say about borderline disorder. People with this disorder have major issues with responsibility. For them, even the word responsibility is like a red rag to a bull. They get very angry when someone tries to hold them accountable for something. They tend to have an outwardly accusatory stance. They are always right, and everyone else is to blame. So even if you want to have a dialogue with a person with borderline personality disorder, it won't work out, because such a person will always make you the one at fault. People with borderline personality disorder often become cruel and cold. It may seem as if they lack empathy, but that's only how it appears. They do have empathy, at least the beginnings of it, but it's as if they switch it off at the moment when they experience a borderline breakdown. In other words, such a person loses touch with reality and constantly falls back into their traumas. And falling into trauma makes such a person cruel, cold, and can even lead to violence against someone close to them. Or, if that's not possible, this person directs violence toward themselves, including self-inflicted physical harm. But if you try to say anything against this person's behavior, they will make you feel guilty again. Because a small child doesn't understand when they hit or bite, they don't realize that they're hurting someone. And if you don't tolerate this violence, if you try to set personal boundaries with such a person, they will always reproach you, saying that you don't love them enough, that you don't respect them enough, and that you don't care about them enough. An insatiable hunger for love. This is another hallmark of a person with borderline personality disorder. And a person with this disorder can do anything, absolutely anything, just to get to receive the attention and love they so desperately need. But it's like an abyss. You pour your love into it, and it's never enough, never enough, never enough. And even if you love such a person very much, care for them, look after them, they will always reproach you, saying that it's not enough for them. Most often, in order to attract attention, such a person chooses the role of the victim. And as you know, the victim always has power over those who are close to them, because the victim always evokes pity. And how can we possibly refuse the victim when they commit violence against us? Because they're already suffering so much. How can we possibly cause them even more pain? The guilt that the victim provokes in those around them is a kind of manipulation and a way to control the people they are very afraid of losing. I want to emphasize again that The fear of loss in such a person is very strong because they have an abandonment trauma. At some point in childhood, their mother either left them physically, there was a separation, or the emotional connection was broken at a fairly early age, and their attachment was disrupted. That is, the mother could have been nominally present, formally present in the child's life, but emotionally she was cold or even cruel, paid no attention, and was distant with the child. And there you have it, borderline personality disorder. As you may notice, borderline person with borderline personality disorder is very similar to people who have narcissistic personality disorder. There are a lot of similar traits, but still they are not classic narcissists because they do need care, nurturing, warmth, and closeness. But they demand it. They literally stomp their feet and want everyone around them to give them this care, attention, and love in an incredibly large amount. Such relationships, of course, exhaust the person who ends up with next to a person with borderline personality disorder. In every partner or in their own child, a person with borderline personality disorder is searching for that good mother who will eventually love them, hug them, be close, be caring, be a good, kind mother. Even if this child, a person with borderline personality disorder, for example, is a mother or father, they will project this motherly function onto their child and will force the child to become an adult, to grow up very quickly before the time when a child would naturally become an adult. People with borderline personality disorder doom themselves to lifelong disappointment because as adults it is impossible to find that good mother externally. And in a certain way, such people doom themselves to very intense suffering. But not only themselves, also those who end up in relationships with them. And of course, if you're hearing me for the first time, if you've just visited my channel, please subscribe, give this video a like, and let me know if there are people with borderline personality disorder in your circle, or if you've noticed any signs of borderline disorder in yourself.